Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with Barnett Bain. Hey, I'm up to going out and mustering up some miracles. Let's go see what we can play with here today. What cool things we can get into and marvel at the unfolding and make meaning out of and so forth.
The biggest piece, I'm delighted to say that I experience miracles more and more and more consistently. Small miracles, I am more comfortable with.
Right.
So I've had some really huge ones, as you know.
Yeah,
some things that just these wild things. And again, the mind wants to make sense of it. The ego wants to make sense of it. And the ego doesn't always show up as some big bad troll.
Right.
It can often, it shows up as because it is so married, it's in such a long-standing romance with logic and with reason that it undermines the hold of that we have on reality through logic and reason when miracles show up. It just undermines everything. So we want to find facts, or we want to go scientific, or we want to thread it out into a straight line. And when there are big, big miraculous things, that's really a tough one.
It's disorganizing for that part of us that's learned to hold the world in that very tight, restrictive way.
Which is pretty much all of us.
Yeah. But the thing that's different is that we like having our mind blown. It's fun.
Well, it's a practice. I mean, it requires practice. Sometimes,
Yes.
Every time I say to myself, well, that's too good to be true.
Oh, yeah.
That is a direct communication from the part from the one that wants to be in control, would rather be right than happy.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge, out of my own experience, there is a line. There are levels of, we don't experience more than we can handle. It self-selects out because there are levels of the miraculous. One day I said to myself, I'm really open to, let me just see, let's just see if I can open to as much success as I can. And be careful what you ask for. So I started getting bang, 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 and pretty soon I got anxious. It made me really anxious, and I was aware of saying, whoa, this is too much, stop. I remembered making the choice because it can be disorganizing. So we open to the more in our own timing, and it requires some cultivation of that. Just as you open the heart to a relationship with your loved ones in your own timing, to open to the fact that outside of, if we were living in miracles all the time, do you know what our life would look like? It would look like a dream. So everything we think we know about who we are and how life works, bang, out the window.
Yeah.
That can be unsettling.
Yeah, it's interesting because you've used the language in the past, these moments where you pop off the reservation, where the way that you've held things in that moment isn't necessarily what's defining the experience. You're having this out of construct experience, out of body maybe, out of whatever, out of the ordinary, extraordinary, spontaneous. And those moments do become frightening. It's interesting. I even want to track back the first Wives show when we were talking about the edge of intimacy and where, we have this run of really feeling like we're so connected and then having this moment, at least in my experience, of pulling back from that and going, it's too much,
We can't handle that much energy.
Handle it.
We have to develop a capacity for it.
I'd rather be wanting it than
I'm used to it. I'm wired. I know how to do it.
I know how to want it.
I know how to want.
Yeah, wanting's easy, but when I actually have it, whoa.
The thing, I am more comfortable with all of the strategies.
Yeah.
And all the stories I have around strategies, all the things that I do for love without knowing that I'm loved all along. Now, if I really open to the knowing that I'm loved all along, then I don't have any reference to how to behave that. I only have reference for the strategies to get love.
It's like what I was saying when I know who I am in the middle of the struggle. Like that part of me, I totally understand. Put down the struggle and just pick it up. Oh, who knew? But I mean, that is in that moment.
That's more scarier. That's scarier than struggle.
Yeah. Well, in that moment, it's so fascinating because it's that surrender, that I'm over this, like, enough. There was the putting it down. It's so interesting because it is kind of vulnerable, and it is a kind of because there's always this little thought, well, what if it doesn't work? Struggle is pretty consistent in my life. I know what that looks like. But this other thing, we top out. I think that's the right language. It just is too much.
You have to develop an emotional body that can handle that much energy, a physical body that can handle that much energy. Again, without getting too cosmic, an astral body. We're energy systems, and we are in certain patterns of energy. And now you're running like 150 volts through a 60-watt wire. You're gonna blow out. You have to learn how to build that capacity.
It kind of goes back to your China trip when you went to China and you just blew out.
I totally blew out.
But what I love about that story is that the aspiring to is still intact. It's just
I was shocked at how. First paranoid, and then so anxious, and that energy has to go someplace, and it goes down all of the channels that I have habituated, and it's, to use the analogy of a riverbank, the energy it overcrests the riverbank and it spills all over the place, and we go into chaos. And our crises that we face in our lives, they are always about meeting challenges that inundate us with more energy than we are equipped to handle. And the energy just splatters all over the place. You think of these folks who win lottery tickets.
They win a great example.
There is this astonishing research, which I don't need to quote now because people will push back and say, really? Just take a look, Google that. Google the percentage of the 1% that retains that money. It's less than 1% that retains that money, because we say, good things come. And yes, they're good things, but we don't have patterns of thought and expectation and imagination that are juicy enough to hold that.
It's again tracking back to old shows when DC Cordova came on, and she said, if you don't have a sense of deserving, and that comes in, you won't hold it. You'll simply bleed it out. So actually, similar to what our last guest was talking about, is it's a real course to begin to develop the capacity, if you will, to hold that much energy in the form of money, or that much energy
a relationship,
in the form
or
of
love,
intimacy,
or mattering,
right?
or life
Exactly.
mission, or
Creativity.
meaningful relationships, or satisfying work, or creative endeavors. However, sometimes we get blind because we look at other people and we don't realize everybody is pursuing their own course and filtering it through their own calibrations are set up. So we think we all were dealt the same cards, and then if they can do it, or she can do it, or I can do it. I was lost in that one for a long time.
Yeah,
a long time, and I still find myself going, well, how come?
Right. Well, part of the commitment that you and I have made, which is what this show is. I mean, part of why you agreed to do the show is, A, it would be fun, but B, it also was slightly unnerving, and you didn't know if you'd be good at it. I love that. So saying yes, we've talked about that, and of course the whole Deborah
Poneman.
Yeah, her thing is the yes. It's the yes. That's the name of her company. Just yes, saying yes.
Or as our friend Karen Hoya says, just say yes. Just say yes.
But okay, so now let's weave in this thing. There is an orientation towards stretching or growing or expanding, and that is it. There is an orientation towards that. There's an orientation towards miracle. Like, let's play with miracles. Hey, that would be cool. And allowing it to get fuzzy, and it's going to be an interesting ride, because the nature of it is, you don't get to know. That's the nature of it. You can't see it from here. Anything happens, and I assure you, it's not what you think it's going to be. It's not what your plans. But that's okay. We just go on the ride.
We operate with 5 senses, as an example. So suddenly, 5 common senses, and then there are all these uncommon senses that we've talked about from time to time. Until you have experiences of uncommon senses,
right?
Intuition, all sorts of things. These are some of the emergent faculties that are kind of coming online. we don't have if you're colorblind, you don't have the ability to relate to a world filled with color. So we don't have from here the ability to perceive or conceive of what lies in store. And if we could keep returning back to the way it has been, then whatever that information that Deborah was referring to, that light information, that energy in formation that we are experiencing, will always be compressed back into what was. It's a opportunity and an adventure to turn on more of ourselves, light more lights.
What Deborah said is important. Like, no time in human history, we're all being pushed to grow, because the small container can't hold it. So there is a blowing out, if you will, of the paradigm that we've held, because it isn't where we're going. So there's this embracing of unknown. There's this embracing of the journey itself. There's this unfolding. This is what we're committed to here. And there's stretches. There's little places where I know I can stretch, because the ability to stretch is really crucial. We go back to something Greg Braden said in terms of adaptability. The whole
on this show,
that what he was talking about in terms of Darwin's theory of evolution, it isn't the survival of the fittest. He's saying that what it was the ones that survive and thrive are the most adaptable. And so, again, this is the part of the adaptability is this relationship with unknown, this ability to stretch and grow. Carol Dweck's book Mindset sets this up for today's business, to be successful in the business world. This open-mindedness, this learning orientation, this growth mindset. And where people are really having a harder and harder time and becoming less and less relevant is when they're fixed. And for people who have succeeded in a particular way, it's hard to put that down, in favor of unknown. If I've been really good and it's worked and I've got power and I've got prestige, it's hard to let that go. But those folks in this new emerging paradigm are becoming less and less relevant. To be relevant is to have this growth mindset, this orientation towards stretching, this fascination with things that are miraculous. That's the juice. That's the juice that is the path forward from my perspective.
To be willing to let the very next thing be fundamentally totally different from what was, just because we're comfortable and we're familiar with what was. Can I have a juicy enough imagination and open enough mind and open enough heart to allow the very next moment to come with lots of surprises and be entirely different?
And folks have to kind of train for this. I mean, that it's a year-long course and becoming more relational.
Year-long, that's pretty good.
Miracles.
It's been a 60-odd year.
Well, of course, no.
Year, but it would be fantastic to. It doesn't have to be a 60-year. It'd be fantastic to be able, as our listeners are able now, to short-circuit the 60 years of looking around, to go on to a accelerated program of discovery and mentorship, and in 1 year to fundamentally change your orientation to life and be a fertile ground for the planting of miracles and the flowering of miracles. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a program we recommend.
Or you can just call her on the phone and just get it one-to-one. I personally like that one better.
Well, not everyone's got a personal phone number.
Well, you got to speak.
She doesn't fly to everyone's city to go hang out in the afternoon.
You got to speak to Waffles, and Waffles can take care of you.
We got to get a shot of Waffles up on the Facebook page or the website.
I have a shot of Waffles.
Oh, good. Let's put it up.
I do have a shot of Waffles.
Let's put it up. That's funny. Hey, can we do a quick check-in? Because I'm curious where things are at. Now, I realize the date that folks may listen to this is slightly different than the date today.
Yeah.
But any updates on anything fun going on for you?
Updates,
I mean,
yes. Well, here a number of
Milton.
things. The Rwanda movie
Beautiful
is,
film.
Thank you, is probably will be delivered. We're doing the music now. Probably be delivered in about 6-7 weeks. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
And what else is going on? I wrote a book.
That's
called The Book of Doing and Being.
This is
and
huge, Barnett.
It is coming out from Simon & Schuster,
Yes.
either at the very end of this year or the beginning of 15. It's finished, and I'm now in a new book about relationships.
Yay.
And lots of really good things. The Milton movie is moving along and moving forward piece by piece by piece. And as you mentioned earlier, yet another draft of the screenplay.
Can I say something about
Yes,
all of this?
please.
Because the interesting part, having been with you on so many of these pieces that are falling into place, is the moment that they really involve the risk. Each one of them was such a huge risk for you. I know that because I watched you step into the unknown with each of these projects that's now coming to fruition in such a beautiful, magnificent, miraculous way. But that's the nature of it. So there is something that we have to be willing to allow to die or to pass on to embrace the next piece. And it's not going to be what we think it's going to be. It's not going to take a direct course. It's going to be bendy and windy. And just know the stretching is the preparation for us to step in and say yes to whatever that thing is when it arrives. So blessings on you, my brother, for all of these things that are manifesting. And for you, the listener, we're
and I'm a late bloomer, so there's hope.
we're grateful that you've tuned in. We hope that you are able to continue to stretch and receive all the blessings that are the unfolding of that stretching, and they surely are. And we invite you, of course, to keep coming back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Thanks for listening.
Bye now.